Okay, guys, crypto is crashing really hard this morning. We have two back-to-back hourly candles that are just massive red candles. We are going to talk about why this is happening, but also what's going to happen here after the Bitcoin ETFs are approved. So we're going to start with this sell-off, why it's happening, was it to be expected, and also kind of what the future still holds here, regardless of this downturn here. Crypto is so volatile, and just a couple hours like this could cause panic. I don't think this is time to panic at all. And I think you're going to understand this after watching this video on why we had this big sell off. But I also think that there are still some big reasons to be bullish this year in 2024. And, even if we don't get that Bitcoin ETF by January 10th, which I've been saying, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that we do. If you guys have been watching my channel, I think it could be pushed out all the way into March, maybe even into Q2. With all of these things, you have to realize that these things don't materialize when people think they will, right? They usually take more time. So let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin, though, guys. And this hourly look, you guys can see right now, Bitcoin trading at 42,253. We actually wicked all the way down to 41K, and we bounced off this local low that was set back on December 3rd. So that was good to see that we did bounce off these local lows. I thought before the year was over, we'd actually wick down to this blue line down here eventually. We never did. We never did come down to like 38,000 or anything like that. But it looks like we are going to try to hold the local lows here of like 41,000, bouncing off of those pretty nicely right now. And, this was a good time to obviously take some profits off the table. It's why I did it right back in here at 44,000. I missed a little bit of the gains, as you guys can see, but so far I'm pretty happy with that decision. And now I continue to buy Bitcoin every single day, but I did think it was a good move, maybe just to take a little bit off the table, hold it into stablecoin just in case. Now, the question is why? What's going on? Well, here's what's happening. Um, Peter Schiff, of course, warned us that spot Bitcoin ETF approvals could collapse the Bitcoin market, while Matrix Point says SEC greenlight unlikely before Q2. This is really the important point. This data analytics company said that SEC greenlight unlikely before Q2, despite general optimism. And that essentially, you know, took the markets downward. And then you had Peter Schiff, be careful what you wish for. The promise of a US listed spot Bitcoin ETF has been supporting the Bitcoin price and speculative demand for years. I wouldn't say for years here. I don't think Peter Schiff is right in saying for years. But I definitely think in the last year or so, this is what's propped up the price. Once the ETFs are launched, he says, and the highly anticipated institutional and other new investor demand does not show up, look out below. I think that demand will show up. But yeah, Peter Schiff is always just super negative on Bitcoin. But I do think he's right in one capacity that, you know, it is kind of a buy the rumors, sell the news event right now, right? Wolf of Wall Street says this market is so volatile that a single entity sharing their opinion that an ETF will get rejected is enough to trigger the liquidation cascade that the same irrelevant entity also predicted would come with the ETF rejection. So basically, he's saying because people are turning negative in terms of the potential that we get a Bitcoin ETF here soon, that we're selling off. And that's exactly what's happening. Um, Bitcoin has been running, I think, you know, hard since, our last 100% move because of the news of a Bitcoin ETF. I think we moved up from 16,000 to about, 22,000 pretty normally, just regularly coming off of some lows. But then from 22,000 all the way up to, where we were just yesterday, 45, 46,000, a lot of that has been speculation on Bitcoin ETF. There's no doubt about it. And listen, I do think we're going to move higher. Don't think this is just a negative video, right? But there's certainly some manipulation happening right now. And people who bought in, knowing the fact that, if these ETFs get approved, we would see some higher prices. So Matrix point though, before we get into some of the good stuff, which we're going to get into, I think you're really going to like what I've got for you. But this latest prediction from Matrix Point paints a stark contrast to what many ETF analysts have predicted, with several seeing a 90% chance of approval for the January 10th deadline. However, Matrix Point says that despite the frequent meetings between ETF applications and staff from the SEC, all applications fall short of a critical requirement that must be met before the SEC approves. Matrix Point sees the first spot Bitcoin ETF being approved sometime in Q2 2024. In its analysis, the data-centric firm noted that Democrats dominate the current 5-person voting commissioners leading of the SEC, and it's less likely that any of the commissioners, including SEC Chair Gary Gensler, would vote in favor of a spot Bitcoin ETF. So, with that being said, I do think we're going to get an ETF. I just don't know exactly when. Now, here are some things to be excited about. Check this out, guys. Morgan Stanley updates their Morgan Stanley Opportunity Fund. This is JP Morgan, to shift 25% of total assets into Grayscale. Okay, Bitcoin ETF. The flood is coming. So other live NASDAQ funds are already updating their rules, like Advisors Preferred Trust as well. In this case, allowing up to 15% of total assets to transfer into Grayscale right here. And this is another response here. Breaking, a pattern is emerging. Other funds registered as securities already trading on the NASDAQ are amending their prospectus. Move myself over here. Are amending their prospectus that they can now expose 15 to 50% of their AUM to Bitcoin through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. How we see Advisors Preferred Trust can now hold 15% AUM in spot Bitcoin through Grayscale. The fund may invest up to 15% of its total assets to indirectly gain exposure to Bitcoin. So basically what this is showing us is that NASDAQ funds and various big companies are getting ready to open the floodgates to Bitcoin in something, in this case, like a Morgan Stanley Opportunity Fund. And for those who want a little bit more risk in their portfolio, Bitcoin's going to be a big part of that. And I think eventually Ethereum and some of the other top cryptos will be as well. But you're seeing that people are lining up. They're getting ready to offer Bitcoin and obviously give that opportunity to their investors through various funds through the Bitcoin spot ETF being approved. So that is really excited. And, you still have a lot of companies that hold, mine, or accept Bitcoin by, and here's the list by market cap. So these are just some of the companies now, but I expect this number to really grow. You've got Tesla, PayPal, Block, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Huge companies here. TerraWolf, Core Scientific, Overstock.com, CleanSpark, Galaxy Digital, and many others here. So eventually this list will get bigger. I'm going to say that on this tweet. Eventually this list will be massive. I really believe that. Like once we get the Bitcoin spot ETFs approved, there's going to be more and more people holding it on their balance sheet. And those are exciting times ahead. So that's what we've got for you guys right now. That is why crypto is crashing. We've got just the negative sentiment, people pushing back the deadline. I had a feeling this could happen, and we're seeing it play out. There's definitely some speculation in the Bitcoin price right now. And a lot of people thought that the Bitcoin ETF would get approved yesterday. It didn't. And now we're basically coming right back down to where we were just a few days ago. So I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. I still think long term we look really, really good. So I wouldn't freak out at all. But that's what's going on right now. And I hope you got some value here. Let me know if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys in the next video.